So I finally read the the tax reforms, the tax reform bills. Of course, like I said, four bills in one bill. Some of them in administration, some of them in revenue, but four bills in totality. And like I said, the last time I read it in part, I had to go and read the whole document. And I'll say this as a starting. While I appreciate the effort of the committee to have put together that beautiful bill, however, there is a seemingly quite very tiny line between where we have been and where we are going to. A lot of the conversations around that bill is disparaging where we are as a people. Nobody is taking conscious efforts to look at what we are now being proposed to move into. And that's what led us here. I am sure that the particular bill we have now that we have said is long overdue to have been thrown into the bin. That's how the people moved from one particular bill era and moved into that bill regime. Why we want to discard this, I would suggest if it take us 1 year, 2 years to properly do an evolution, right? A transposition, a modulation into a quite formidable, progressive, developmentally oriented agenda. Let's do it instead of moving from primary to fire. But what I see here is a perceived hatred for the current status quo that want to now move into a new status quo and empower a new sheriff or a new empire. While we are all of us be using our collective effort to feed in the north of Nigeria, currently, all of us are about to move and start to feed someone else. We are not getting solution. It's not moving. And I'm not doing this because I don't like the current government. I'm doing this because we need to think beyond the emotional attachment we have about things. All of us, I see a lot of comments, especially those of you that are in the ruling tribe in this country. You are angry. The north has been, no, Ronu, we must, and the rest of us, because it's like, I'll say this. I worked in an organization a while ago, and then the department I was appointed to manage, the person that led that department made a lot of errors. When I got into that department, the first few things I could notice were the errors that had been committed, and then I cleaned that up. Guess what? In 3 months after cleaning up that mess, I got into bigger mess because my concentration was on cleaning the error. But if I have created systems, if I have created organizational structures to cement it, to making it better, I would not have focused just on the errors. I will now begin to look at how to create systems and structures that can create long-lasting solutions to the current problems. Now, the challenge is, what I see with the tax bill, for example, is that we are moving from one end of a challenge into another end. So the current situation is we are currently in fry pan, want to move to fire. What I see is that the current proposers of the bill looked at the challenge we had, and then instead of them to fix a long-lasting problem, they are going ahead to propose solutions that focuses on fighting the current era. And it's unfortunate that we are in this mess. And I'll break it down in this order. First, what is the current situation of the bill administration, the current regime? So, assuming that we have all states contribute revenues into the federal government, for administration. And the current administration says, if currently in the revenue system, federal government takes 15% of whatever all states and everybody have made. 50% goes to state government to share within the state. Remember, there are 36 states, for example. And then there is a 35% left. So there is 15 for federal government, 50 for state government, 35% for local government administration. Now, in that 50% that has been given to the states, that is now further splitted into 3 parts. And the first part is there's a 50% made available for states based on equality. All state shares 50%. So if 50 billion naira had come, So 50% of 50 billion naira would be 25 billion. So all states in Nigeria will share 25 billion equally. Whether you are big or small, whether you are large, it doesn't concern. Whether you're in the north or south, as long as you are a state in the constitution of Nigeria, you earn something. Then there is a 30% that is now given to state based on population. So if you remember the politics that was played in the 2006 census, you understand why right now. Because some states with populations, even though some of them are very political, after I vote a few northern states and I say this state cannot be said to have the population that they have. For example, politics were played, right? So, but this state will not get an advantage of any more based on population. Every state will get, but this time the sharing formula would start from the most populated to the least populated, right? There is a 20% that is left over for derivation. Derivation will be where is the money coming from? So what are the states that has given more? So take small and put on top. It's about 20% of whatever is left. So if it was 100 billion, 50 billion for equality, 30 billion for a population, 20 billion now goes for derivation, right? Basically. Then right now, the new tax regime is proposing that of 100% revenue collection from states, for example, all the federal government will take only 10%. Only 10%. The state government, so from 15 will now have 10. The state government, instead of having 50%, now begin to have 55%. The local government 35% still remains. So there is 55% available to states. Now, it is the 55% of the states that we are coming back to, and that's where the major conversation is. So usually, instead of equality for 50%, it has now been dragged down to 20%. So 20% now goes for equality. So all state shares 20%. There's 20% now for population. Instead of 30%, states are now going to share 20% for population. And there is a 60% now meant for derivation. So wherever the money is coming from, you have 60% now to share. So if Lagos State, for example, currently Lagos State, for example, if they bring 200 billion into for example, the whole money from all of the country for revenue is 500 billion. Lagos State boasts that they brought 200 billion into that 500 billion. Every other state brought 300 billion, for example, right? Lagos State at the moment will only have powers in determining what they get extra when it gets to derivation. But currently, the new regime is proposing that Lagos State will have a chance of having lion's share from the 60%. So equality and population are now lower by while derivation up. Now, this is the challenge. The challenge at the moment is that currently we do not have a system of delineating, separating, understanding where some of these things that will be taxed, where some of these revenues, because at the moment we are supposed to be investing in systems to helping each and every state, because now we are getting to a point of derivation. Why it's easy to tell states should go and develop, open your doors for investment, do this and do that. The current investment that has been domiciled in Nigeria but headquartered in Lagos, where the systems of administration does not have the power to understudy or make it clear where some of these revenues are coming from, it is dangerous. Everybody do not live in Lagos. For example, the headquarters of MTN Nigeria is in Lagos State, Nigeria. And even if MTN Nigeria has other outlets, whether regional or state offices or local offices or community offices, it is still assumed that MTN Nigeria operates from Lagos but have remote offices across the country. So VAT that will be paid on subscription, airtime, calls made across this country will be charged on every subscriber or every MTN user would be allocated to as though it came from Lagos. That's the point. The current system do not make it easy for anybody to be able to ascertain that somebody from Sabogeri in Kano State has made calls and, for example, or subscribe or bought data, and the VAT, whether it's 5%, 7%, 7.5%, 10% that is not being proposed, that is coming from there, you will not be able to know. So Kano doesn't have the benefit of getting what subscribers what the VAT on his residents and citizens, or residents of course, and indigens, okay, residents, because indigens they can live anywhere, residents use or they accrue by way of again, look at DSTV for example, and all other cable network. There are subscription across the country, subscription in interior places like Ososo in Edo State. I went to a place in Kogi State. My God, I went for the burial ceremony of one of my big friend's father, and I was shocked. Down, I've forgotten the name of the community. Down into the interiors of Kogi State, and I got there and I saw life, roads, a lot of things happening live. So how does DSTV? What system are we putting in place to ensure that this kind of subscription that will happen there, the VAT that we accrue from those subscriptions, do not get to Lagos? Because now we want to move from 20% derivation to 60%, which is good. But first thing we are supposed to do is to begin to sit down to create a system where wherever. So if it is to ensure that in the online subscription, for example, or there is not proper systems put in place that everybody that subscribe in Edo and the VAT that accrues from their subscription gets to be reflected on Edo revenue. So at the end of the month, Edo State is producing, for example, their own revenue to the federal government accordingly, not just on lands, not just on hotels, not just from works being done, not just from investment, even these what's the name? These companies that are domiciled in this country and the activities across the board, the benefit of it come to the state back, because we're talking about derivation. As some of you have said, it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, there are people who are just angry with the current system and they want to move to another system where there is a new empire that will be benefiting. No, we can't do that. If it takes us a bit of time, I do not think that we should continue this regime, but if it takes us 6 months, 1 year to create system, that's what every country does. As I made mention the last time, in the environment where I am in the United Kingdom, systems have been created. All taxes, all fines, all levies get to the city council that is in charge of my environment. And so it is revenue for them. And whatever decision strategy it is on their tax regime and tax administration, but this city council that I domicile has it as revenue. That's as I put my postcode, which is the most important thing. If you live in the UK, for example, I know that it is your postcode that is the most important. Everything you do is from your postcode, and so from there you will know, even in booking buses, your postcode, because whatever tax, whatever benefit comes, the environment gets a benefit of it. So that's the point we are saying. We agree that the current system cannot continue. But why are we jumping into let me not go into this. Into cutting off the current system and moving us into a new system? I think this video is getting too long, so I'll stop here. So that's the situation. For those of us, beautiful idea, but we must look at it. There are people that work personal income tax, for example, across the country. Some of them are there. It is from Lagos, their head office in Lagos, that they are being paid their salaries, and so their taxes would be taken from the Lagos state government. We can't continue like that. And same way in Rivers State, for oil companies, for example, there are many oil companies do exploration in Edo State, in Akwa Ibom State, in Bayelsa State, in Delta State, but then their headquarters is in Lagos or in Rivers State, and then you do not think that this is a problem. We must create system to ensure that if you are having oil exploration in Delta State, no matter, listen, don't deceive yourself to say the state has been getting money. Let's not jump from fire to fire. But as a few years now, we'll be back here. Somebody wants to take over, change a system of administration of tax and make it beneficial, even if it means well. Sir, calm down. Let's face this problem. It is better to create long-lasting solutions than to create solutions that rob your ego or that benefit you on the long run. Right? This is it. This is not a political post, but this must be put into proper perspective. If you doubt me, don't come to my comment section if you have not read this thing or if you do not understand this perspective. I'll rest my case. Catch you another time. Bye for now.